Alright y'all, so I'm going to show you how I did these cute jumbo Popsmoke feed-in braids on myself. The hair that I'm going to be using is by Zury Hollywood. It is pre-stretched, 54 inches. The ends are rotted and it comes with 3 bundles in each pack. Each pack of hair was $5.99 at my local beauty supply, and it was buy one get one free, so that is why I'm using this hair. I'm also going to be using Shining Jam to kind of help lay the look all together. So first things first, you want to prep and part your hair. I'm not going to go into much detail about parting your hair because I really suck at parting my own hair. You're going to see my husband in this video. He's going to help me part the back and just make sure things are even, and we do the best we can with what we've got. But like I said, I'm not going to go into much detail about parting your own hair because I can't teach y'all something that I don't know much about myself. I would just say try to make the parts as even and as nice as possible. But y'all know, as soon as I get parting my own hair down to a science and perfection, I will teach y'all what I know. So one of the main things you need to know to be able to accomplish this style is the feed-in method. So I'm going to show you how I do the feed-in method on myself. So first thing I do is just begin braiding my hair without any weave at all. And the main thing you want to focus on is the placement of your fingers and which fingers you use to grab more hair. For me, it's either my index finger and my middle finger, as you can see in the video, or my index finger and my thumb. For this particular braid, it is my index finger and my middle finger that I'm using to grab more hair. So those are the fingers that I'm going to use to feed in the extra piece of hair. So I'm going to place the piece of hair between my index finger and my middle finger and then continue on with my braid like so. You don't want to try to overthink it. However, I do understand that that still may be confusing to some of you, so I'm going to explain it a different way as well, because there is more than one way to skin a cat, right? So, if you think about it this way, there are 3 strands in a braid. And when you go to feed in that piece of hair needs to align with the middle strand and one of the outer strands of the braid. I'm going to say it again. The piece of weave that you are feeding in needs to line up with the middle strand of hair and one of the outer strands. And 9 times out of 10, when you try this for the first time, you're going to mess up, and that is okay. I tried this style countless times on myself, messed up countless times before I finally got it right and felt confident enough to record it and to teach it to somebody else. Like with anything in life, you can't expect to be good at it if you quit the first time you mess up. So when you are doing your own hair, if you want to be good at doing your own hair and doing hair on yourself, you're going to have to understand that you're not always going to get perfection and that you are going to mess up. Learning any new skill takes practice, time, and patience. So if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again, okay? We are Aaliyah and Timbaland up in here. So that's my feed-in teaching portion of this video. The next thing that we're going to focus on is the size of the pieces that you're going to feed in. Just real quick for this part of the video, the only thing that I'm grabbing is a little bit of Shining Jam so that my braids have a nice sheen to it. And I'm also going to place that on my real hair, just enough so that it lays and has a little bit of sheen, but not too much where it is too slippery to grip. So now moving on to how many pieces I used to feed into my braid. I ended up using 6 pieces of different sizes to feed into my braids. So the good thing about the hair that I'm using is that I was able to use 1 bundle for each braid. So ideally, it was ensuring that each of my braids were going to be the same size, because each amount of hair for each braid is already separated out for me. I just then have to separate the hair into strands. So for the sizes of the strands that I used, once again, I used 6 strands in all to feed in. The first piece that I feed in is going to be a small size strand, obviously. And then the second 2 strands, so the second and third strands that I feed in are going to be medium. So right in between small in medium, not too small, but not medium size either. And then the last 3 sizes are going to be the same size. So the last 3 strands are all medium size pieces. Now, I understand that sizes can look different to everybody. So if you're trying to get the exact sizes of the pieces I used, just for reference, I would just pause the video because I did not get any footage of my pieces laid out for me. I know that trying to get the sizing of each piece can be a little bit difficult, so my bad for not getting any footage of that for y'all. But I will say that using this particular hair really does make it easy for you, because if you use 1 bundle per braid, all you have to do is separate the pieces for each braid. Okay, so moving right along, the next thing I want to talk about is how often you need to feed in a piece of hair into your braid. So for me, I want these braids to be jumbo. So in order for me to achieve that look, I needed to feed in a piece of hair very often. The only way I know how to explain this is that every time the braid switched to my dominant hand, I would feed in another piece of hair. You'll probably get a better feel for how often I fed in a piece of hair just by looking at the video, but trying to put that into words, whenever I went to grab more hair with my dominant hand, so my right hand, I would also grab more hair to feed into the braid. So if you're wanting your braids to be smaller, then you need to feed in less hair less often, and your pieces of hair that you are feeding in need to be smaller. So I do want to point out that I'm not doing my braids super tight because my hair is on the finer side, and my scalp and my hair just cannot handle that amount of stress, especially when I'm using weave on my hair. But you can do your braids as tightly as you want them to be. Typically, the tighter they are, the neater. So whatever floats your boat. I'm going to show one more angle of how I do these braids from the back. And that is just so you can see that the process is exactly the same, except I do use different fingers to pull in more hair. For this particular braid and the braids in the back of my head, I use my pointer fingers, my index finger, and my thumb to feed in more hair into the braids. So I'm going to speed up the video for the remainder of this braid because I feel like I have explained all the steps that I think that you need to know. However, if you do have questions, feel free to leave them below and I will try to answer them the best way I know how, if I know the answer to your question. In terms of the number of braids that I have, I ended up with 5 braids on each side, with all of them being the same size, meaning using the same amount of hair except the 2 smallest braids in the back in the middle. For those 2 braids, I split 1 bundle of hair and used 3 strands for each braid. So because I did not end up being satisfied with the length of these braids, I decided to go ahead and feed in 2 more strands of medium-sized pieces so that the braids could be longer. I wanted them to come right past my waist. The feed-in method is exactly the same that I already taught earlier in the video. The feed-in piece just needs to align with a middle strand and an outer strand, and then I just braid the hair all the way down till I get to the rotted piece of hair, and then I stop so that you can see a little bit of curls at the end of the braid. And that is pretty much it. As you can see, when I finish up the braid, there is a couple of difference in inches in terms of length, and that is exactly what I wanted. So now I'm just going to finish up the look by adding some edge control to my baby hair, because I do not braid my baby hair. I mean, if you want edges, you do not need to braid your baby hair. And this is the final look. I loved how these turned out. I want to give a shout out to Ashley Did My Weave on Instagram, because she is the stylist who inspired me to try these on myself. So y'all check her out. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and until next time.